Hello, this is Richard Leeson again, and we're going to talk about how to get the GIS data into the NZP tool to get it used and ready and prepared for your first uses in your ADP. So typically at this point we assume that the GIS data has been sent and ITL has uploaded the basic data, and we get to see what we have and see how good the data is. So when we start, we look through and see if ITL has created this test study, and so we're going to search for Illinois. And we see we've got several, hit the search button, we see we have several projects in Illinois, and this is the one that says Fort Illinois GIS Building Test. So this is the one we're going to open initially to see what our data looks like. We come into the Study Information tab, and the first thing we do when we get there is we can look at the facilities to see what the condition of the data is. So we select the master facility list. We see there's nothing here currently listed, and so we view our map. As the map comes up, we can see that there's quite a bit of data here, and we're going to visually ungroup it so we can see this, and we can see that the color coding does tell us what the buildings are. We look down here, we can see that this is this color here, which seems to match these here, are UEPHs, and we have warehouses down here, and so we've got our legend over here on what the different building types are. And so we have this is the initial cut at the data. Now this is not exactly how we want all the data. We can see by putting the mouse tip on each building, we can see what some of the default values for this are. That's it says water treatment plant and a temp, and that's not what that is. And this is says water treatment plant, and this is this happens to be a outpatient health clinic. And so we're going to we still have some things we need to clean up in the data. So add the selection. We're just going to add them all just to get a peek at what we have, and add that to the study. And these are all the different facilities that we have. You can see here it changed over to facilities that have been added. We're going to save that. And we can take a look here in the facility group summary, what different facilities we have and how many buildings we have in each, what some of the percentages are for the plan area and the conditioned area, the percentage and the feet squared, and we can see the average cost. And some of this, like I said, some of this data doesn't look quite right, but we can go look at the facility summary as well to look at the different values for each of the individual buildings or facilities themselves. And so we can see that there's quite a bit. It looks like it just went in at this construction date. So we're going to go in and request that ITL send us a CSV download of the data so that we can make a pass through that data and clean it. And we're going to make that email request and get that data, and we'll be back when we have that data. Okay, we've received the file, Fort Illinois version 1 from ITL, and we've received it with all the object structures that are in place in here. And we can see the buildings, each facility that's in here with all their different attributes. And what we want to do is to clean up all the data we want to change, and then add in data that's missing. So we see at the top of this column we have date to renovate, date to demolish, date to build. In the data that we saw in the tool, there was a construction date. Remember, I showed you that some of those said 2015, and what we're really looking for on that construction date is if it's an existing building, that construction date is going to be the year that anticipated to have that renovation, and so we put that date in here, and it will ultimately be populated for that. If it's a building that we plan to demolish, we'll put the year that we plan to demolish that building, and if it's a planned building, we put the date that we plan that the building will be put into service. We can also see the different building types here. This is the actual facility group that will go and be specified, and we're going to be able to change those to whatever we see necessary. One of the things that we definitely want to take care of, besides putting in the missing thing, is making sure that we've taken all the miscellaneous things, the things that are not quite identified correctly, and making sure that we do put a value in for all that data. And so we want to go through here. We want to clean the name up of all the different building names. We want to make sure that the building numbering is correct and consistent. We can see that there's been a lot of temporary names put in here for these buildings. We want to check the conditioned area and the number of floors to make sure it matches. Now, this is the area of the footprint that actually comes out from that GIS shape. We can use that to check against our conditioned area. So for example, we're looking here at 35,609 for this building as the footprint area, and we see that the area inside is 71,000. I would expect that the levels in the building should be 2, and we see here that the floors are sitting at 2. And so we want to go through and make sure that we've corrected all of those. Normally we get that data from the real property ID, and we'll sit there and just go through facility by facility and get the name, the number, the area inside from the ADP, the area development plan. We can come up with the dates to renovate, dates to demolish, and date to build. We have our chance here of once again going through and changing our building types to the facility groups that we would like these to be, and to make sure that the status is existing, planned, and demolished as expected from the ADP. When we go and check the floors, the lifetime of the building is typically on the order of 50 years, and we want to make sure that this is a little bit closer than this. This is absolutely a default value for 100. We do know that for existing buildings that the energy code is probably not ASHRAE rating 90.1/2010. It's probably something that is quite a bit older than that, and so we want to make sure that those match along with the wall, the roof type, and the water code. Now, in many cases, we end up with, in this case, we saw all the buildings. It looked like there was everything we wanted in the list. But there are times when we get a lot of extraneous buildings. That would be some that are very small, sheds, awnings, detached garages, things that we really don't want in the study. What we do is if we do not want those to show up in the GIS on the map, we just delete those out of the data here. When we delete it out of here, we don't actually delete it from the database. We just hide that, and that way, if we ever need to go back and get that, we can change the flag to view, and it'll re-image that facility. The other really important thing to remember is we can easily go through here and change this data by sorting it, but we always want to make sure that we select it all, because the most important thing is that we don't get the order of this data out of line with the object ID. If we do that, we may as well just start over. So we can come and do a lot of different custom sorts. Many times we'll come in here and we will sort the object by the area inside, and anything that looks like a number, we'll go ahead and treat it as a number. So when we come here, we can start with either the smallest facilities and work up, and or the biggest facilities and work back in size. So we can start with the most important ones and work our way in either direction when we work on this GIS data. So for now, we're going to pause, and I will show you what the data will look like when we're all done with it. Okay, now we're back. We've made our revisions to the file. We did a save as to save the file. With a change the version, added who changed that. With that information, then we went through, we cleaned up the building numbering so that it's consistent, that matched the real property IDs. We completed the names here, got those matching. We checked all the areas inside and made sure that they made sense with the footprint and the number of floors, and we got all that matching up. We see we had the lifetime of the buildings. Between 40 and 50 years. A lot of times we just want to keep that around the study life, which is normally that long. So we have all the sizes of the buildings corrected for existing, demolished, and planned. Then for the existing, we put in and in here we put the date to renovate. We put in the dates that we've planned the renovations throughout the life of the ADP. We've also added the demolished dates and the planned dates to the planned buildings. We've checked all the building types to make sure that they match, and their status, which is existing, planned, and demolished. As I said, like before, we had the floors correct. We've had this cost per square foot now more in line with actual cost for this installation. The energy codes are pre and post 1980 for the majority of the installation, with some newer planned buildings coming in, and even some older warehouses sitting at the far end of the building. We made sure that we had our new buildings are probably going to be put in with the Water Code of Energy Policy Act, and most other stuff is probably pre-Energy Policy Act. Most of the building is mass with insulation above deck. So that's what our file will look like going back to ITL. Then we wait for them to update it, and once they've given us the go-ahead and they've updated it, we will see that information show up here in the GIS, and we're ready to start working on the project in the NZP tool.